did it because of the DG, because he had another one at 11. We already had to postpone the meeting for him, so.
The things you do for AGM.
No, but he cares, he really wants to, he doesn't want his wife or anybody else, if he can, he wants to come and dress this
Do you want
stuff
me
in
to do
person.
some of this? I'll do the other stuff.
Yeah. So. Agenda.
Yeah.
What's that? More?
Samo agenda i questionnaire. Par pitanja, rekla je da pravim još, ako neko hoće dati neki any feedback they might have from council, što nije loše.
Da, to nije loše, da.
I onda stavljam suggestion box.
A da imamo tamo, jel? Sad smo te nazvali suggestion. Dobro. Imamo li prevodioce? Hoćeš da dajem ili imam, što sam tu?
Ma, nije važno šta, samo sam htjela sprit.
Ma. Ja sam jučer izbjegla da budem u kancelariji. Da bi skratilo tamo i oni pripremili pokoru, a mogla si ti doći. Ja onda nisam stigla pročitala što vidim da podesem, znaš, što se poslije.
Odlazak? Zašto? Tebi koliko kupili oni? Što je bio tvoj rođendan?
A, ljuče moj, ali ja nisam došla ja
A
sam
joj, ja sam razumela da je tvoja unuka slavljala.
Zajedno. Rođen isto dan. Ili bolje reći na isti,
Skoro isti, je?
Skoro isti.
Tako smo i mi, moj tata ima.
Ne, isto, mi smo baš istog dana.
Moj tata ima sutra i sestra mi je Mejda. Sam 4 godine sada u brata, imamo isti dan. I moja mama par dana kasnije, tako da smo se grupirali. Ona koja sliči na tatu je rođena 2 dana nakon njega, a mi koji sličimo na mamu smo.
Nevjerovatno. Da.
Bez obzira da niko nije veliki matematičar u obitelji.
Je, a on jeste, a?
Niko nije.
A niko nije.
Mada bi čovjek očekivao. Zbog takve preciznosti.
Da. Moja čerka je imala termin mnogo kasnije, ali neki 15-16 dana da bi se rodilo ranije tačno na rođenje.
Koliko ti je godina čerka?
Ona sad ima 33, mala je napravila 3. Znači imaš još da radiš.
Da. Nisam baš ono picky.
Daj ja malo nešto, ode napred. Šta ću ja se čekam ovako bez veze.
Što sam
Ja
ovdje?
ovdje sedim, znaš.
Ne volim ni ja, ali otkad sam došla.
Ja volim malo da se reći. Ja na poslu možda imam grupu koja ne sedi samo u sobi. Ja stalno, znaš, moram da izlazim, ulazim u meeting, a mi razgovaramo, znaš. Nešto sedim ovako na meetingu, kočnica.
Ja više to ne mogu izdržati, ja sam toliko ubljevljala kad sam počela to raditi. Jer sam ja prije isto radila u birovu, ali sam imala stranke, pa bi se dosta klizala.
To ti kažem.
Idem po faks pa se vratim, idem naprijed na intervju pa se vratim. Onda samo sjednem, Sorry for this.
I also offered, as you know, in your language, I also offered to help, but she wouldn't let me.
Hey, point you
She doesn't trust me, you know? She does not trust me, see? Okay.
So.
Are you optimistic that many people
Can I
will
have
come?
some more?
Danny, we agreed in case someone asks why don't we give something more or do something else or blah blah blah, or they have suggestions how to spend the money.
We have a working group on that and we have suggestions.
So I'll let you answer the question, yeah.
Everybody.
No, because you are in the working group, they told me yesterday.
Yeah, it is in the report as well. Can I have some more?
Yeah, what do you need?
Both.
Okay, I'm done for this side. So. Sorry, thank you.
Neka me pita
Shamali Parmi or
Something
something like
like
this.
that, yeah.
Huh?
But the material is so soft. Then the
Very
colors
nice,
are very
but
nice.
that look
Yeah.
very nice.
Ah, yeah. So.
I'm just a modern granny.
Oh
What can
my
I do?
goodness. Modern granny. You don't look like you can be a granny.
3 years old, we just
Oh my,
celebrated
how
birthday.
exciting. I love to be a granny. I'm looking forward to it. My boys are very slow.
Hopefully boys are not that fast.
So
My,
it's
well,
Okay.
actually, my daughter's already 33 and my
Ah.
girl is 3.
I forgot to
So
send a
So
reminder
she's
to council
younger.
members that they
yeah,
should
but
come. Pure perché?
Forse AGM does it.
If they haven't done anything
In
in the
case.
past, it wasn't an issue. Yeah, I mean, if there was anything that huge that simply explained,
Sì, ma io non ho molto da dire, però
at least we said, oh,
cioè io non farei mai che se manco per niente. Cioè io se queste cose là mi e allora la stanza, la stanza è vicino.
Then you're gonna be much more comfortable.
anyway, first rule,
Era venuto e
reserved for you.
vediamo se oggi cioè lei ne fa una cosa
Good morning, sir. Where's the conference officer?
dopo mangiate
Conference officer is okay. Well, it's fine, but I have a complaint. My chair was there.
Oh yeah.
My chair.
la sistema almeno questo le sue giornate sempre un po' meno vabbè io quando l'ho
They want for experiments.
Maybe a second Good morning, colleagues, and on behalf of the Staff Union, I would like to welcome you to the annual general meeting of the United Nations Staff Union at Vienna, and thank you all for taking time, especially Mr. Fedotov, for joining us at this meeting. First, I would like to inform you that on the tables in front of you, you'll have a copy of the annual report and of the agenda, as well as a short questionnaire, which we would like you to kindly fill in and put it in the designated boxes just before you leave the conference room. So, first of all, we would like to adopt the agenda. You have the provisional agenda in front of you. And if there are no objections, we would like to adopt the agenda. Okay. Thank you. The agenda is adopted. Now we would like to elect a rapporteur, and I would like to ask for any nominations for a rapporteur. Yes.
I would like to nominate Shadi.
Anyone second that? Thank you, Giovanna. So I would like to ask Shadi to join us at the podium to kindly be the rapporteur for this session. Thank you. So, the first agenda item is the address by the President of the Staff Council, Ilka Kuleshnik. Madam President, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Ms. Presiding Officer, Mr. Fedotov, dear guests, and dear colleagues, I am pleased to address you this morning and to welcome you to the 2015 Annual General Meeting of the United Nations Staff Union at Vienna. Since the last annual meeting, a new term of the Staff Council has been ushered in, the members of which have been working for the past year on protecting and serving staff. But the work and impact of the Staff Union and its council does not happen in a vacuum. It is influenced by a myriad of factors and parties, whether by those in leadership positions in the organization, or the financial markets which affect the budgets of member states, or whether they be the debates within the staff federations or the voice of one individual staff member. One constant, however, is that regardless of the factors, the Staff Union works in the interest of you, its constituents. The annual report, which was circulated yesterday, and I do apologize for not getting it to you earlier, highlights the work of the Union over the past year. And while it may sound like a cliche to say that the year has been filled with challenges, it is nevertheless accurate. But what is also accurate is that opportunities have presented themselves, opportunities to affect change in positive ways. In striving to protect the rights and well-being of staff, our staff union has continued to collaborate with entities on various levels. On the UN-wide level, we have been very active in the Staff Management Committee, both through its annual meeting and interim video conferences, as well as through participation in its working groups addressing mobility, performance management, general service staff career development, the administration of justice, and the just recently established working group on whistleblower protection. I am pleased to report that the working relationship between staff and management has become much more productive in the last two SMC meetings. In addition, there have been some gains for staff emanating from our work. I'll highlight just a select few. With regards to mobility, there will be a reexamination of which posts will be in the pool for rotation in UNOV, UNODC, in light of the extra budgetary and therefore sometimes unstable funding sources of some posts. We were also able to postpone until 2012 the need to have a geographic move to apply for posts at the P5 and above levels, giving affected staff more opportunities to meet this requirement. And in addition, the composition of job networks is being reconfigured with staff input. With regard to performance management, the midterm review has been retained at the urging of staff. Your staff union has also been active in the staff federation to which we belong, CISWA, and in which issues of direct concern are debated amongst its staff associations. You are likely aware of many of those that have arisen and that would affect conditions of service, compensation, and the entitlements of staff. It often appears to be an uphill struggle, with many proposals having been put forth that would negatively impact staff. A few examples of such proposals that were stopped after staff intervention include a pay cut for professional staff, a mandatory bonus pool for high performers from changes in the salary of others, a reduction of the current rest and recuperation system, a reduction in the additional hardship allowance for staff with dependents, and removal of the tertiary education grant. I repeat that these are no longer on the table. One of the direct gains for which staff fought was made in regards to personal status. More specifically, married couples are now recognized based on the legislation of the jurisdiction in which the marriage took place, rather than on the legislation of the country of the staff member's nationality. As such, same-sex married partners of the UN staff can finally receive benefits such as medical insurance. In addition, as you may have heard, the General Assembly has decided that staff who entered the organization before 2014 will have the choice to either work until 65 years of age or to retire at 60 or 62. Although some may question whether having the option to work for a few years is something for which they may be grateful for. In any case, the date for implementing the decision has not yet been decided. However, the staff unions continue to advocate for January 2016. Notwithstanding these accomplishments, attempts to erode staff entitlements and compensation continue, and as such, complacency on the part of the staff union is not an option. Some of the outstanding issues concern the change in the dependency scales, changes in steps that would negatively impact those in the lower levels, not covering boarding school costs for staff at certain duty stations, reducing the lump sum option for shipping costs, and changes in the management of the pension fund. Here in Vienna, we continue to enjoy a very good relationship with management, including through our ongoing constructive consultations with them whenever needed. Although, as has been rightly pointed out on previous occasions, the distinction between management and staff is an artificial one. Nevertheless, I would like to note that the relationship is one of mutual respect and that any request for a meeting, even if on short notice, has been promptly granted. Such an approach is appreciated all the more during a period of change as we are undergoing here in Vienna. For example, Umoja and Flex Time are two UNODC-wide matters that have the attention of many staff. There have been numerous briefings, broadcasts, and discussions on both, so I will not go into detail. Suffice it to say that concerns have been expressed as to how Umoja will impact posts, including possible reductions, redeployments, changes in function, as well as workload and entitlements, for example. With regard to flex time, concerns among staff arose around the abolishment of the scanning machines to track staff attendance. Specifically, effective recording of time and attendance, preserving flexible working arrangements, which indeed are being preserved, and possible discrepancies in these areas between units have been raised. I am confident that all channels of communication will remain open, as they have thus far, for cooperation regarding how to eliminate or mitigate any concerns or effects arising from these or other issues. Also, as a member of VSAC, which is the Vienna International Staff Associations Committee, the staff union strives to pool efforts and resources for the benefit of our constituents here on our home territory, while also reaching out to those less fortunate than ourselves. Two such examples which VSAC addressed pertain to, first, the proposed increases at the Vienna International School, which led to a town hall meeting and a joint letter to the heads of the VBOs, and secondly, to the recent Ebola crisis in West Africa, with a charity event to raise awareness of and funds for work assisting in the crisis. Within the Staff Council itself, In order to guide and enhance its work, members began the current term by formulating a plan of action and establishing working groups to concentrate on specific areas. At the initiative of the Working Group on Outreach and Communication, a retreat was organized to, among other things, further develop ideas put forth in the draft plan of action, better organize itself, more effectively campaign, and enhance communication with membership. In fact, this past year, the staff union has been focusing on the individual level. That is, being available to interact with and listen to individual staff members. Speaking for myself, I have maintained an open-door policy meeting with many staff on specific individual issues. I continue to welcome any of you, while also knowing that your staff representatives are also fully committed to being available and of service to you. The issues that staff have brought to my attention are broad. Concerns range anywhere from post reductions and possibly losing the source of livelihood for oneself and family to security and well-being, from performance evaluations to changes in job functions, from conflicts with a colleague to education grants, from changes in how the organization operates to leave requests, as well as others. In some cases, a positive outcome was achieved, often with the help of others, including management. One maintained their source of livelihood, or the conflict with a colleague was resolved, or the guidance given led to the channels that could provide effective advice or resources. Unfortunately, however, this was not always the case. But it was the case that staff were listened to, and the Staff Council offered assistance to the best of its ability. At times, this involved reaching out and involving others in the organization. I would therefore like to express my sincere appreciation to all those who have worked with us in efforts to arrive at mutually agreeable and beneficial solutions. As we have repeatedly heard, the staff are this organization's greatest asset. Indeed, this is an organization that would not exist without its staff and is only as good and strong and effective as they are. As such, it is of paramount importance to respect, protect, and where appropriate, enhance staff rights. Not just because the UN, as the preeminent international organization that serves the people of the world, should be the standard against which staff rights and protections should be measured. Not just because there is an obligation to respect certain standards, rights, rules, and regulations, but because doing so is the right thing to do, while also having beneficial effects for the organization and its work. And the best way to start addressing your concerns and needs is to hear from and directly partner with you. To this end, the staff union will continue to expand our dialogue with you. The range of issues arising at this stage of the organization's evolution necessitates that we do so. While these may be perceived to be trying times for the organization and its staff, they may nevertheless also lead to opportunities for reflection, stock-taking, and progress. Together, we can minimize any potential negative impacts while maximizing possible benefits. You, the staff which serve the UN, and the organization which you serve deserve no less. Before I close, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the dedication and superb contributions of our staff assistant, Anna Maria Jelenchuk. I thank her, and I thank you for your participation today and for your continued support and contributions to the Staff Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erika, for this very comprehensive account of all the issues that we have been dealing with in the Staff Council in the past year. So the next agenda item is the address by Mr. Yuri Fedotov, Director General and Executive Director for UNODC. Mr. Fedotov, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And once again, good morning to all of you. I wish you every success in this Staff Council meeting and productive discussion. But to start with, I would like to thank Madam President for her very eloquent and comprehensive speech. And with your permission, I will come back to some of the issues she actually mentioned in her speech. Those are very important issues. Those are issues which are not only matters of concern to all of us, but many of them on my desk, on my personal radar screens. I am following very closely these developments, and I will be delighted to comment on a few points you've raised, Irka. But before I start doing that, I would like to place this discussion in more general context, and also to talk a little bit about the capacities and tools at our disposals. First of all, speaking about the general context, and that is 2015 annual report. That is the year of the 70th anniversary of the United Nations. That is, of course, a special year, and that has a direct bearing on us, on the staff, because we're also, including management, members of staff, because there are much more international meetings, conferences, more workload, more ambitious plans. We need to do much more, quite often with less, and so that is have a direct impact on what we're doing here at UNODC. Especially in the preparation for the UN Summit in September and the 70th Anniversary General Assembly of the United Nations. That will be a great event, a big event. Not only stakeholders, member states will discuss and will make an assessment regarding the implementation of the MDGs, but also the new post-2015 development agenda is expected to be adopted. It means that we'll have much more to do in the preparation for this summit and the General Assembly, but much more to do as a follow-up to these important events. I don't want to frighten you, but just to depict you a roadmap which is waiting for us. And especially for UNODC, but also for some other sections of UNOV like UNOSA, it has a very direct bearing, as many SDGs goals, including Goal 16, which stresses the need to promote peaceful and inclusive societies and the rule of law, justice, are very closely related to the mandate of UNODC and some other entities in Vienna. And the recent Crime Congress in Doha precisely was perceived as a step towards the preparation for the UN Summit, and the main theme of the Congress was precisely the link between the rule of law and sustainable development. The Doha Declaration is an important document, and I would like to commend all staff who took part in the preparation and the meaningful organization of the Crime Congress. Many colleagues worked with dedication day and night to support member states in the successful events. More than 400 delegates, more than 120 high-level delegations, Minister, Secretary General, President of ECOSOC, President of General Assembly. But what is important, not the event itself, but the follow-up to this event. And there are two follow-ups. Number one, these messages that the Crime Congress through the Crime Commission is sending to the UN Summit on SDGs, but also another point, that the Congress itself and the Doha Declaration will have its own roadmap. And it was stated at the closing session in Doha that Doha is not the final destination, but just the opening of the new way towards next Crime Congress in Japan in 2020. And now we're working both with Qatar, with Japan, with some other countries on a specific plan of action, how to implement important provisions regarding the strengthening of the rule of law, crime prevention and criminal justice, fighting transnational organized crime, into real programs and projects. So that is a huge task, and of course we'll have to do it, and there are lots of expectations. Next event later this year, it's a conference of state parties of the UN Convention Against Corruption in November, St. Petersburg. It's another contribution to the strengthening of the rule of law, as well as the preparation for the next year's special session of the UN General Assembly on Drug in April 2016. At the same time, we see an increasing role of the both commissions, Crime Commission and Drug Commission, as the Crime Commission meeting which took place just a week ago was a sort of follow-up to the Crime Congress, and the Commission on Narcotic Drugs is very closely involved in the organization and the preparation for the UNGAS 2016. This week, the Corpus opens, and that is another opportunity to discuss how outer space technologies could support MDGs. So, as you see, I just mentioned a few of these elements of the broader context, of the broader picture, but it is very clear that this year will be very active, and there will be a lot of pressure on us, on staff, and we have to be prepared and to meet these challenges. So what about capacities and tools? First of all, financial situation. So the good news is that the total voluntary contributions continue to increase, and I am very pleased that our voluntary contributions 2014 reached $300 million, reflecting a growth of 28% over the income received in 2010. So that is good news. It shows that we still need it. We have trust and respect from member states, but unfortunately that is the end of good news, because most of these contributions are coming in the form of earmarked contributions. Our general purpose contributions continue to decline. GP decreased from $16 million in 2010 to $6.8 million last year, and this year we expect it is projected to reach only $5.3 million. Of course, we're fully aware, the management are fully aware, and we're working with donor community. We developed a sort of a narrative and key messages we're trying to send to donors, and some of them are working, and but also we have to understand that situation, financial situation is still not easy. Many traditional contributors, not only traditional but new emerging donors, are continue to face very serious internal budgetary restrictions, and that is another reality. They're cutting their own staff, they're reducing their own programs, and that's why this competition among UN agencies for funds is increasing. That is also, we like to say, and I am a proponent of one UN, but while we're trying to work as one team, we should not forget that the strongest partner get always more. It does not mean that the winner takes it all, but at least we need to prove our efficiency and effectiveness, and the only way to do it is to deliver. If we can deliver, if we can impress the stakeholders that we can deliver better, faster, and cheaper than other UN agencies, we can get another expectations that the financial support will continue. So it means that in spite of this positive trend of increasing financial contributions to UNODC, we still need to be very active and not allowed to stay idle. Otherwise, the trend will be much different. And of course, on the regular budget, you are aware of the situation, the decrease of the UN regular budget. Of course, that is for UNODC, it's only a minor part of the budget, but for UNOF, it is important. It continues to decrease, and it was perceived at the beginning that it's just one-time decision of the Secretary General, but now, under the pressure of member states, it is clear that this trend at least will prevail, at least at the current financial situation prevailing in the outside world. So, the full cost recovery, I think we succeeded to meet the challenge. And finally, after all these long and sometimes difficult debates internally, but also with donors, we succeeded to find the modus operandi. And I would like to thank the Full Cost Recovery and Management Coordination Committee, led by Aldo Lalademos, my deputy in UNODC. They're reporting directly to me, and I was involved in all the discussions, and I'll continue to follow up very closely. Because still we need to keep it under control. Enterprise risk management. I would say that could be considered as one of our achievements of the last period of time, and we've been even qualified to get one of the best practices among UN Secretariat in developing enterprise risk management, and that system seeks to integrate risk management into our strategic planning, programming, result-based management. At the same time, we continue to develop the culture of evaluation, and recently we discussed with colleagues the possibility of extending the evaluation from UNODC. That is a good practice, but auditing bodies, I don't remember which one exactly, mentioned that it is not good that UNOF is not undergoing this process of independent evaluation. We have to think how to deal with that as well. And now I'm coming back to the priorities, some of the priority goals. Some of them were mentioned by Irka in her statement. First of all, Umoja. Of course, I'm very much concerned that in spite of all our efforts, we're still in the orange, if I'm not mistaken. Dennis keeps saying to me that still we have 5 months to go, but I'm a little bit concerned. Time is flying, and we need to do much more to get ready to the implementation of the new system, because that is really a revolutionary system. It requires a sort of not only reshaping, but restructuring of many of our habits, including personal habits. It's a new culture of management and personal work style. So we need to try to do our best to capitalize on the existing expertise. One of the major challenges, of course, is in terms of the preparation for Umoja is training. So local process experts, LPE training starts next week for courses in funds management, logistics, and source to acquire. These courses are designed to create specialized experts to train all other colleagues in the end user training, which are scheduled before go live September, October. But time is very pressing, so we need to respect absolutely this very tight timeline. And it is also important to take care of the quality and to make sure that LPs will become real experts in the merger process, and end users, all of us, will benefit of their experience and their guidance. Then in October there will be employee self-service training, which is very important, very relevant to all of us. ESS is necessary for all staff in order to manage their own entitlements, time, attendance, travel requests. The flex time was mentioned, where we can argue. I was also not convinced how this transition has to be done, but actually the truth is that this system will be taken over by a merger when a merger go live, and we must think ahead and to be prepared for this time attendance travel requests in accordance with the new system. Mobility, of course, both staff and management representatives working very hard, and we're discussing several elements, several bricks or pieces of puzzle of this system of mobility. Of course, we need some additional inputs from the headquarters in New York, how it will go ahead. So still we have some time, but we must be ready, and I'm prepared to encourage and to support the mobility which is friendly to the staff members, which is supportive of the staff members, but not aggressive with regard to them. The same goes with performance management. That is a very important system. We'll continue to take care of it. Safety and security. It continues to be one of my utmost concerns. I am pleased by the way that we succeeded to move our staff from the previous location in Kabul just a few weeks before the terrorist attack on these premises, where many other people lost their lives. That was a miracle that happened, and we have to pay credits to our colleagues, to our field mission in field office in Kabul. But I also am traveling a lot, and I see our staff working in very hardship conditions in the jungles of Amazonia, in the war-torn countries, countries of extreme poverty and climatic duress, and they're working very, they're dedicated people, they're working very hard, and I will discuss it with them actually next week at our field rep seminar, and also we're trying to restructure this seminar to make it less formal but more interactive, because we need to consider all of us as one family, not just people working in Vienna and in the field offices, but we're just one UNODC family, and we have to do it like that. Gender balance continues to be one of my priorities. I'm trying to do more to support steps to improve the gender balance, especially at some positions which were vulnerable, both at UNODC and UNOV, and I hope we'll succeed. The trend is positive, but we need to do more. And finally, VIC, VIS. We're working very closely with Caroline Nichols and also with other colleagues, with Dennis and with Mr. Galla, Chief Legal Advisor, to mitigate the impact on the staff of this decision of the Austrian government to reduce slowly subsidies to the school and find long-lasting solution to the school. I'm very pleased that we have full support from other VBOs in this respect, and I'm raising the issue at a regular level with the President of Austria, with the Foreign Minister, and Secretary General is very supportive. But as you know, in Austria, this matter is also a matter of political concern and political debate, including to the parliament and the press, so it is not easy, but we are trying to do our best to make sure that there is a minimal damage control for the staff in any further reshaping role of VIS in the future. And the process is still on. We're still discussing at the working level, at the expert level, with Austrians, modalities of the new system. And finally, to conclude, I would like to stress one very important point. We must continue to strive to ensure a culture of zero tolerance against negative behavior. Any harassment, any negative, harmful behavior must be prevented, and people must respond for their behavior. So that is my consistent policy. I will continue to pursue it, and I hope the staff union will support me in that. With that, I would like once again, I apologize for the sketchy remarks, but I thought it would be useful to react to some of your points. Madam President, I would like to wish you every success in your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fedotov, for a very comprehensive update on the substantive and the financial situation of the office, providing us with the positive outcomes like the increase in the voluntary contributions and the challenges that are faced by the office, including reduction in the GP, implementation of the full cost recovery, OMOJA, and other issues like mobility, safety and security, gender balance, and VIC. I thank you again. So as Mr. Fedotov's time is very limited, I would like to open the floor for some questions now. Yes, please.
Hello, I'm Elena Cisneros. I'm a conference interpreter, and I would like to come back on the issue of VIS and the grant by the Austrian government. I understand that this matter is more or less solved now, and there is a decision about the new schedule of fees. And my question is about the impact that this will have on the staff, because it's not only about VIS, it's that now with this new schedule of fees of VIS, almost all international schools in the English language in Vienna are now above the maximum receivable amount for the education grant. And this is creating a situation where staff members are being squeezed between the cuts that are coming and the rising costs, since it's not only the fees, it's also associated costs like food and transport and new school materials that are being requested for parents to buy, with new computer programs being introduced in the schools. And my question is if you intend to help staff with other measures, like maybe considering raising the maximum receivable amount for Vienna, which is comparatively low in comparison to other duty stations. Because at the moment in secondary, all Vienna International School in the English language, or almost all, are above the maximum receivable amount only for tuition costs. This doesn't include other associated costs to tuition.
First of all, I wouldn't describe this situation as almost resolved. We're still talking, we're still discussing. There are many important details where we don't have a final agreement, so that is not the final. That is, so to say, the likelihood outcome of the discussion, but still there are many details, and the devil is in these many details, because finally afterwards, after all these details are discussed and decisions are taken, we can figure out what could be, so to say, price to pay for this new formula, including for the staff. So it's number one. Number two, I don't exclude the possibility of raising this issue, as you mentioned, that could be one of the solutions. But first, we need to have a final picture and have a final agreement with the Austrian, with the host country in this respect. What we're trying to avoid, we're trying to keep the negotiation track as it is now, and resisting all attempts to engage us in separate discussions with the Ministry of Finance, with the Ministry of Education. For us, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Integration in Austria is a major counterpart, because, after all, they were signatories to the previous agreement on the VIS, and they take responsibility for the commitments and international obligations of Austria at the international, in accordance with international law. So we're talking with them and with the Austrian government at the highest possible level to try to mitigate the implications. But don't worry, that is somewhat which is considered by the management and by myself. I mentioned already to the Secretary General that staff will be in a very difficult situation. So we will discuss different options in the future, including the one you mentioned.
Thank you. Herman?
Thank you for organizing the meeting. Okay. My question is, since Imoja is coming, we all know for sure, and it's going to affect most likely some of our programmers in ITS, do we have something concrete for them to move laterally to post which will be advertised in Imoja or other sections where other staff members will lose their job? Thank you. That's my question.
It remains to see. For me, Umoja, that is somewhat which is not finally clear. And of course, we have to foresee any developments, including the reprofiling some of existing posts. Because now we have two systems, and we have colleagues dealing at the same time with the old system and the preparation for Umoja. Of course, some positions will be redundant, not only in ITS but also in some other sections, including in DM. But we'll try to find solutions that no staff members will be harmed by this process.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fedotov. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So I would like to thank you, Mr. Fedotov, for making time to be here and for informing us of so many of the pertinent aspects of our work and the context in which we work. And yes, I look forward to continued good relations all around. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we thank Mr. Fedotov for his participation at the annual general meeting, and we will move to the next agenda item, which is the discussion of the annual report. You all have the annual report in front of you, and the report has been divided into some sections. Irka will provide you with more sort of details on some of the particular topics that has been provided to you in the annual report, and we will have a more interactive discussion after Irka's summary presentation. Irka.
Thank you. Yes, and again, apologies for only getting the report to you yesterday. What I thought I'd do, it's a rather lengthy report. I would just go through the report and highlight some of the key issues, but that's not to say that there are not many others that are of concern to us and that may be even of more concern to you. So what I'll do is, as I said, I'll just highlight a few areas, and then we can open the floor up and feel free to either ask in more depth about some of these issues or other issues that have come up. Okay, as you can see from the very beginning of the report, it starts with some of the work we did at the very beginning of this term. And the council thought it would be useful to have a plan of action and to establish working groups on specific areas of work. And one of the initiatives to facilitate this was put forth by our working group on outreach and communication, which was to have a retreat. And during that retreat, a number of items were discussed. I will not go through all of the agenda items, but we did have an external trainer, and we talked about the items I mentioned in my opening remarks. And the working groups were established on conditions of service, on staff protection, on the statutes, and on communication and outreach. Another thing that we had worked on and that we were discussing both in the council and in the retreat was the need to have a very specific vision and mission statement, which we did not have, just to ensure that we were all going in the same direction in our work and just to solidify it and to share with staff. So you have these clearly outlined in the report. Now, conditions of service, including UN reform and pensions, these continue to be very dominant themes throughout the reporting period. And the continuing contracts review was completed in 2014. It had been somewhat delayed, but it nevertheless was completed. And anybody who had issues in terms of feeling that they were eligible but were not, were invited to approach the staff council. And we met with some of those people and discussed with HR and others to follow up on any of the concerns. Salaries and benefits. The focus this past year on salaries has been a little bit more on the P-level side, because there will be, in the coming year, or just over a year, there will be the General Service Salary Scale survey. And we are already preparing for that in terms of sending people for training. And I would like to thank the IAEA and FISCA for holding some of those trainings and to prepare our staff to be expert in the committee that is involved in that. With professional salaries, I mentioned a few things. I mentioned something in my opening remarks that sometimes our work resulted not so much in a direct gain for staff, but sometimes in not having a reduction. And this is one such example. There had been a proposal to reduce the salary. There had a proposal that would have resulted in decrease in salary of the P staff for about 8%. And we were able to avoid this. And this was a result of calculating the margin, the calendar margin in our comparator. It goes into a little bit more detail in the report. But basically, as many of you know, our salary is a result of being compared to the U.S. federal civil servants and needs to be between 10 to 20% higher, and hopefully at a 15% average. And one of the member states decided it should be looked at the past 5 years, the average, and if that were the case, we would have had a salary reduction of 8%. Fortunately, that was avoided. Compensation review. Again, many of these issues I briefly mentioned. They're elaborated here. Some of them are outstanding. Some progress has been made, but the compensation review is still very much being discussed in the International Civil Service Commission. They are the ones that make the recommendations to be put forward. And this review has been ongoing for about a year. The next meeting will take place actually here in Vienna at the end of July and August. So even though we are not directly involved, we are represented there through our federation, and we are in very close contact with our representatives there. Some of the things that are currently being debated are the salary scales in terms of having, in terms of the proposal to have a dependency and to merge the dependency and single salary scales. Right now there are two separate ones. There's a proposal to merge them, to have one salary scale, which would, without going into too many details, result probably, if it goes through the way it's proposed, in a decrease for some of the staff in their salaries with dependents. But we are working very hard to avoid this. Also, there's a discussion ongoing on the number of steps at each grade, and to, in short, again, to increase some of the number of steps in some of the higher level posts, and also to have less steps in some of the lower level posts. And we feel that this would result in a broader range of salaries at the cost to those staff in the lower levels, particularly at P3 and P4 levels. The issue of performance-related pay, I've alluded to. There was a push by some to have some bonuses, let's say the highest 20% performers getting a salary bonus, perhaps at the expense of the lower, so-called lower performing staff members, or by not having a step increase every year, but every 2 years. And this has been stopped. The staff education grant, that was maintained for both primary, secondary, and tertiary levels, even though there was an attempt to abolish it for the tertiary levels. And I think we've been discussing a little bit now the VIS situation and what's going on there. With regard to rest and recuperation, there has been a recommendation to discontinue the annual home leave in the hardship duty stations. In those duty stations, staff get home leave every year as opposed to every 2 years. And there's a recommendation to abolish that, unfortunately. However, other aspects of rest and recuperation have been maintained. As I also mentioned, benefits for same-sex married partners. This was a development that was extremely welcome and for which the staff unions fought very hard for. There was a lot of lobbying in New York, discussions with the most senior levels of management who were very supportive of this, discussions with UN Globe, which is the staff group representing lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex staff members. So there were a number of arguments put forth as to why that should be the case, to recognize same-sex married partners. Those are outlined in the report as well, including the concept of ensuring that there are not two classes of staff members, equal pay for equal work, and we did not want to set a precedent that other types of compensation would be dependent upon the nationality of the staff member. Okay. AMOJA, something that has been talked about at length. We have been working very closely with management on this, trying to mitigate any kind of negative effects on posts. And just to follow up on the question that was asked earlier, my understanding is that there is an ongoing matching process to see which people and functions are well matched. There has been movement with regard to lateral moves in this respect, and encouragement of staff to engage in training. But it is a matter very much on the forefront of our agenda, and we will continue to follow up with very, very keen interest. Mobility. I mentioned again some of the developments on the mobility side. It was originally intended to be rolled out with the first job family in January 2016, which is not that far away. However, I have been informed that there may be some delays due to the Inspira system having to accommodate both the normal path of vacancies as well as the managed mobility policy. And the first job network to be rolled out is what is currently called PALNet, which largely consists of political affairs officers. And just FYI, I believe there is only one post at this duty station that is classified as that. I could be wrong, but yeah. So the effects of the mobility policy will not be felt so strongly here for another little while. And the working group is very active, meeting almost on a monthly basis, the working group in the SMC. And just to give you an idea of the scope of the discussions, there is a document that lists all of the issues raised and whether the status of those issues, whether the issues are closed or ongoing. And currently that list of issues contains 185 entries. So you can imagine the complexity of this exercise. One of the things I personally have been focusing on very hard in this context, and is the issue which I raised, which is people moving from very secure fund or relatively secure funded posts, such as regular budget posts, to extra budgetary posts, in particular project posts. And this is of particular concern here due to the large number of extra budgetary posts at this duty station, and staff should not be penalized in terms of job security because of the mobility policy. But this is, again, at the forefront of the agenda in the working group and is being re-examined. We're also very much involved in the career development working group. Daniel Breedy is the representative in that working group at the SMC. They've just come up with a plan to guide their work for the next little while. I don't know if you want to say anything about that at this point.
Thank you, Eka. Not really, other than that we have met, we had a VTC a couple of weeks ago to go over our terms of reference, which an extract of which you have in the report. We will be looking at specifically at the 4 points pointed there, and especially at the eligibility of G staff to be able to apply to P positions without having to resign first. This was submitted a few years ago and was rejected by the GA, but we are trying to give it another try this time around. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. With regard to performance management, that's also been very much the focus of discussions of the SMC. There was supposed to be a new AI issued this year. However, the GA decided to defer discussion of that to next year, so the new AI will not be coming out until March or so of 2016. And the AI is currently under review by the Office of Legal Affairs in New York. We did succeed in having the midterm review maintained, and there were also discussions about where a PIP would come into play. But one of the things that we continually drive home is that other areas where other organizations and institutions can reward, let's say, very good performance is not available to us, and that is through promotions. We do not have a promotion policy here. You must apply to a post at a higher level if you want to go to a higher level. And also, given the fact that internal candidates currently are not giving any preference over external candidates, is also an issue for us, because the past performance and that experience does not have perhaps the same weight as it otherwise would have. Retirement age, you've been briefed on that repeatedly. The implementation date has, as I said, not yet been determined. We have consistently lobbied for a earlier rather than later date, and we want to go with the initial recommendation of the International Civil Service Commission, which was January 1st, 2016. There have been studies, the ICSC did a study showing that delaying the date of retirement would not have any negative impact on gender diversity, geographic diversity, organizational performance, and so on. Those were the concerns of some of those who were opposed to extending the mandatory age of separation. In addition, a lot of retired staff are rehired, showing that their work is still very much needed and valued. And never mind also the benefits to the after-service health care liabilities and the actuarial deficit of the pension fund. Okay. The pension fund, as you know, has been of the focus of some attention lately as well. And this MOU that you're probably familiar with, for which there are concerns about perhaps moving too much of the authority to the CEO and not thereby allowing the protections for the staff of the pension fund to be exercised to the same degree it currently is, has come up. There have been a couple of petitions in that regard, the most recent of which was not initiated by the union, but is something we certainly made our staff aware of and pointed to. Flex time we have mentioned as well already. There was, with regard to UN holidays, there was a push to make some additional UN-wide holidays, but we decided, we fought to ensure that we could keep our local holidays, because if not, it creates an additional burden, particularly on single parents, in trying to coordinate the days of the UN off with their regular school days. So the compromise that was reached was that the current UN-wide holidays would be maintained and the current local holidays, but every effort would be made to ensure that no major meetings would be carried out during these other religious festivals. In terms of compensation, some of the developments UN-wide and even in our duty station, those are some of them. I'm very glad that the executive director mentioned security and safety because that remains of grave concern for us. There was a meeting with the staff unions, not including myself though, with the Secretary General in New York about improving the safety for UN staff, giving the same benefits to consultants in the field, and flying this UN flag at half-mast when one of our colleagues dies. And we've been given assurances that those will be taken up. And we were sadly reminded about the risks in the field with the killing of the UNRWA colleagues in Gaza, the UNICEF staff in Somalia, and closer to home, we still are mourning the loss of our 2 UNODC colleagues, Clement Gorison and Simon Davies, and a plaque will be going up commemorating them. In regards to workplace health and safety, there's been a training on that some of our staff participated in, and as well the staff council working group on staff protection is producing a leaflet on promoting a harmonious work environment, and the final copy of that is currently being reviewed, and hopefully that will be out shortly. And the report goes on to outline the sources of legal assistance for staff, reminds you of our outreach in terms of our website, and I think a lot of people don't know about our website and Facebook and our various broadcasts throughout the year. In regard to services to staff, we've added, I think, about 29 new service providers that will give discounts to UN staff members. And we can continue to give money to charities, the money coming from the profits from the souvenir shop. I think those are, we've also, of course, continue to be represented on the joint bodies, and our contributions of the members therein are outlined there. So I think these are some of the main points, and in terms of finances, we have the treasurer here with us who may say a word about the financial situation of the council. And of course, we are always available and open for questions and comments. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. I would like to I would like to inform you how does our fund look like this year. We continue to have a very sound and solid fund, the base of which continue to be the staff member contributions, which show the staff members' trust and need for the staff union. Also, the trend to have a surplus of income over the expenditures continues as well in this year, which also increases slightly every year the fund balances. We are actually planning to incorporate or add the status of the souvenir shop this year in 2015 to the financial statement, which this thing will be helped by introduction finally of the computerized operations or system of recording of inventories and also sales, which we didn't have before, and this will become hopefully operational this summer. So then this will help us also introduce or include the status of the souvenir shop, whose income has always been the additional source of funding, especially for the charities, as Erika mentioned. So this we promise to have for the next year for our financial statement, which then only will actually show the complete picture and would be in line with also the external auditor recommendation. The issue we had with this was that we didn't really have the computerized system of inventory recording. We always, of course, know the financial position, but for the financial statement, we need to know also what do we have in inventories, which are the things that we sell at the front gate one. Yeah. So this is, you have in front of you the figures, so I don't know whether you would like any details on any of those. I can explain if questions are there.
Say the pages.
Yeah, the page 40.
41.
Is it 41? 41 is explanatory notes and 40, but if you would like any kind of details or explanation, please let me know so we can then address it.
So I would like to open the floor for any questions from Erka or from Nada or any of our people here. Yes, Aban.
I have a question because this has come up with my constituencies regarding the retirement age. When do you expect that this date, January and so on? Because some may retire in 2017, and there are also staff who joined before 1991, if this applies to them as well, or only for the ones that joined after 1991. If you know that staff that joined before 1991, they currently retire at the age of 60, and so on. Please, thank you.
Sure. The mandatory age of separation will apply to anyone who has entered who is currently in the organization. So 60 or 60, somebody with the normal or the expected original date of MAS to be 60 or 62. So it applies to them as well. And the GA has agreed that people who would have normally retired at 60 or 62 will have the choice to work until 65. They don't have to, but they can have the choice. Originally, some of the senior management had proposed that decision be made on the part of managers, that a manager would grant permission to work until 60, to work until 65. However, we lobbied against that and argued against it, and it will now be up to the staff member's choice if certain conditions are met, such as if they have good work performance or something. Right? We have stressed, we really continue to stress that we would like this earlier rather than later. The original date of the ICSC for implementation was January 1st, 2016. There has been a pushback by some organizations to delay it, but we see no reason to do so. Any concerns about the effects on the organization, whether they be the work of the organization, whether it be gender diversity, geographic diversity, have been shown to be not effective in any negative way, shape, or form if staff are allowed to work until 65. And as you rightly point out, it is a little bit, or it can be quite complicated and disruptive to staff who would normally retire at 60 or 62 in the next couple of years, who don't know yet whether they can work beyond 60 or 62. We're international civil servants, and we often, more often than not, retire in a country that is not at our current duty station. And so having to relocate upon retirement is a very big decision, and not knowing when you're going to be doing that is already adds to the disruption and the complications of that. So we do not know when the policy will be implemented. As I said, it will be discussed at the ICSC. There has been a letter written to the Secretary General on this, and we have to wait and see. Of course, we can provide our inputs continually on this and so on, but the decision is not ours, and it will not come until the ICSC makes its recommendation to the GA, and the GA decides in the fall. Technically, it can still be January 2016. But it might also be later because the GA starts in the fall, this session of the GA. So I'm sorry I cannot give you any clearer advice or inputs. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, observations? Yes, Nabil.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ilka, for your very concise presentation. I have a problem with the paragraph 3.3, even being a member of the Staff Council. I think this is an issue which we ought to address internally and here really at large, is the childcare center. I mean, first of all, I have an attitude and a stand that an organization or the Staff Council have to be able to stand for staff who come in and have the urge or the need to put their kids, whether they are the toddlers 0 to 3 years, in a what you call proper child care center. And I find it really outrageous that 2015 we still have a problem to accommodate the children of our colleagues. So that is an issue which ought to really be addressed. I mean, I'm reading here 47 eligible applications. So 36 are applicants for the younger age group. So we're talking about the toddlers 0 to 3 and 11, 3 to 6. So that is, I would like to hear, I don't know whether there is the representative of the childcare center here, but I would like to hear your view, Erika, on that. And this is something where also I would like to know who is financing that thing. Obviously, to my knowledge, is the municipality of Vienna. So that would be something to be kind of really discussed with the administration, whether the administration does not have a commitment towards these colleagues. I mean, obviously, if you have the urge to put your baby somewhere, is that you are in a, I assume, desperate situation to earn your money and still to have your baby looked after. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for raising that point. And actually, when my term began, that was one of the first things I looked into. And I did speak to some of the parents, and I also studied and looked into how the workings of the child care center. And yes, you are right that the child care center is a municipality organization. Let me say this. This issue has come up in the past. As a result, a much more, from what I understand, a more elaborate intake procedure has been instituted and is processed and overseen by the members of this committee, where people are, or applicants are assigned according to various criteria. I don't have the form in front of me. And we certainly want to maximize the use of our slots that we have there. But there are also a certain criteria, as it mentions here, if you were in the creche, then you are also eligible to be going into empty spaces at the older level and so on. The issue has to do about your whether you are a single parent or not. I'm not saying that these are all correct and so on, but there is a standardized application form to, in essence, rank the applications. More than that, I cannot say right now. My understanding was that things have improved to the satisfaction of certain parents who wanted to have their children in the daycare center but had not in the past been able to, but they were then admitted. But we'll certainly take it up further.
Thank you, Erika. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Yes,
Sorry, Herman, it's the lady behind you. Sorry, yeah. No, you.
Hello. Sorry, I wanted to come back on the matter of the VIS and the education grant. And my understanding is that the whole debate is being very much focused on the grant by the Austrian government. But I think we have to move on and look now at the immediate problem that parents are facing, which is the schedule of fees, the school fees for next year. And parents who are in secondary, as from August, have to face the new increased fees, which are above the maximum receivable amount for the education grant. So I think now we have to shift the debate from whatever grants the school is getting from the government, because this is another matter entirely different. The thing is that parents have to face the new fees in August. And parents who have children in secondary education face a very big increase. And my personal impression is that a lot of professional staff are going to be priced out of this school, especially the P1 to P3 category. Many parents are going to be priced out, and there is not a real alternative in international schools in Vienna in the English language. They're all as expensive. So I would like to raise the issue as a matter of urgency for many families who have to face these fees very soon, actually, in a couple of months, and without knowing of this until very recently. Thank you.
Thank you. I will ask Dennis if he would like to respond to this question.
Thank you. First of all, I think the easiest part is that the agreement with the Austrian is close to finalization. I think it's just a matter of lawyers talking about what you call it, how to dot the I or cross the T's and so on. So it's there. So and it's fixed. I think the colleague who raised the question is right. I mean, I think that there's not much we can do in terms of the VBOs. I think the subsidy is now lower and it will decline over the years. Now the issue on the school fee, I think there's some efforts going on, and I think we can all appreciate the fact that a number of parents have raised this issue with the school and so on. But on the organization side, we did inquire with IAEA, which is the lead agency in Vienna in terms of raising the issue on the level of education grant with ICSC. And as it turned out, I mean, the education grant itself is a very complex system. The short answer to that is that the ICSC has indicated to IAEA that given the review of the remuneration exercise, in which one of the entitlements that have been reviewed is the education grant, so they are not in a position to make any adjustment to the maximum level of education grant at this stage. They prefer to wait until they have the outcome of the remuneration review, which clearly, as Jirka pointed out earlier, has some implications and some changes on the education grant system. I hope that clarifies. If not, I can also talk to colleagues bilaterally if needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. So, Herman?
Yes, my question is about our colleagues who are working in the field, who have UNDP contracts. They're working for UNODC. We have, I think, if my memory serves me right, we have raised this issue with management. But has there been any improvement or changes in that as far as other staff members are concerned?
Sorry, Herman, can I ask you in what aspect do you want
in terms of, because they were UNODC staff members, but I think they had UNDP contracts.
Yes.
But they were working for UNODC. My question is, has there been some changes in this contract from UNDP to UNODC contracts? Because there were issues where and the staff member will raise an issue with our offices and we'll say, no, we don't have anything to do with that. That's UNDP contract. So they were torn between the two organizations. My question is, has there something been done to improve other staff members in the field about this issue? I just want to know whether management has done something on that.
I think what you're referring to is staff with their service contracts who are not considered as staff. They're non-staff, and this has always been an issue because they don't have any benefits, they don't have any pension and things like that. Maybe Bettina, would you like to respond to that question? If there are any developments regarding sort of how to give better contract types to the field colleagues?
Well, sure, I can make a few comments on this. You're correct. Our colleagues in the field, locally recruited colleagues, are administered by UNDP, but they're considered UNODC staff. UNDP has a category of personnel that does not exist in the UN Secretariat, that is that of service contractors, that is not considered staff, but is also not the same as a consultant or an individual contractor, what we have in the UN Secretariat. Basically, when issues arise with locally recruited staff or personnel, such as the service contractors, the UNDP rules are applied because they are administered by UNDP. We act as a liaison between UNDP and the field office if needed, but normally the field office is in contact directly with the UNDP office on the ground to resolve any issues that may arise. So normally there shouldn't be any situations where the staff or personnel are torn, as you are indicating, between the two organizations, because the rules are very clearly applied. They are the UNDP rules because they're administered by UNDP, while they are serving UNODC staff or personnel.
Thank you very much, Bettina.
And maybe I can just add, we don't foresee any changes to this modality in the near future.
I do want to honor the question of our colleague by doing probably the best thing I could do, which is to tell the truth. We have about 1,500 service contracts around the world. And I've worked 10 years in the field, and to me, they walk and look and smell and act like any other staff member, but they're not. They're not staff members, they're contractors. I would like to tell my colleague that 99% of them, for them, it's not an issue. They're happy to report to work. They're happy to work with the UNODC. They're happy to do what they're doing. So that has to be, we have to keep that very, very clear. I don't see how we could possibly entertain any change to that. The typology of the service contract is essential for us and for many other UN agencies. And I hope, and honestly tell you, I hope that this kind of contract will continue. Because I would like to tell my colleagues that it is inconceivable that we can turn 1,500 service contracts into UNDP locally, managed staff. This is just, as director for operation, I would like to tell my colleague this would be impossible to achieve. I don't think that we have even the monies, the funding available, nor can we commit to that. So could we then perhaps for once stop this kind of request unless you really inform yourself what really happens in the field? Having said that, what we as managers can do, and in fact are doing, and I have at least 4 people in mind, I will not mention names, what we can do is to support them to transition from service contracts to permanent or to fixed-term contracts in UNODC. I have personally supervised that as regards 4 people. I know other colleagues of mine who've done the same, and that in itself is quite, welcome. It is very, it's really appreciated by the staff. But frankly, my colleague, more than this, in the current environment, we cannot do. And in one duty station where we did do the transition, we are now paying a very heavy price. And eventually, many people will lose a job in any case. So let's be real in this. Sorry to be so frank with you, because, this is something that the service contract is a very essential type of contract without which probably we could not deliver most of what we do. And I don't see, as Bettina said, I don't see any change anytime soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aldo. Any other issues? Comments, questions, suggestions? No? So, I thank you all for participating. Please don't forget to put the questionnaires that you filled in the boxes as requested by Anna-Marie. And we hope that we can serve you all much better in the following year. Thank you very much.